Welcome to Break Time with Breakaway. I'm James Jarrett, board chair for Breakaway.
And I'm Kristen Keats. I'm the CEO and founder for Breakaway Bookkeeping and Advising. And for those of you who don't know us, we are a network of bookkeepers, CPAs, controllers, CFOs, and we work to bring joy to accounting and to our clients.
So we've been reaching out to business leaders to get their perspectives on how to help the Breakaway community provide better support for small businesses. Today, I'm super excited. Not a small business owner, although he has owned small businesses before, John Scott. John's the director of Western U.S. sales and integrated DNA technologies. So a scientist in our midst. He has 20 years of experience in the biotech industry with companies like Guidant, Abbott, that we're hearing so much about these days. And John's currently part of this virtual army of companies trying to work our way out of this interesting situation we're in. So for a little clarity on what's going on here, welcome, John, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John. I am so excited to talk to you because I am a complete layperson. And so if you could just tell us what your company does and how you're involved in this whole coronavirus mess.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit foreign to most people what we do at IDT. And when I tell people what I do, usually I get some very strange faces back at me, and then a whole myriad of questions as to what in the heck I'm talking about. But in a nutshell, IDT synthesizes DNA and RNA. And so it's a chemical, just like any other chemical. It starts with chemical inputs, and you end up with long strings of DNA. And most people ask me, well, what kind of DNA? And my response to that is there different kinds? So, a tree or a mouse or a human, we all operate off of the same chemical. And so that's what we do. We manufacture about 66,000 DNA fragments every day and ship those overnight to scientists all around the world.
And John, what are they doing with DNA, RNA? I mean, and really what we're curious about is with all this conflicting data and the reports out there, what's really going on with testing, vaccines, antibody tests in the United States as you see it from your lens?
Yeah, so our material that we manufacture is a direct input into the test kits that people are using in test labs all over the world right now. So back in January, when this started to really break out of China, Chinese CDC, Chinese FDA came to us and said, hey, we need somebody to make some primers and probes for a qPCR assay. Directly following, the American CDC contacted us and wanted to follow suit. There are several different assay designs out there. WHO made one. There's one at the Jostin lab in Berlin. And then the CDC assay is taken from the Chinese designs. And so we were very, very early in the game, but there have been a number of, missteps along the way. There was an article that was just now released called Tiny Bit Extra in There out of Genome Web, and it describes how the CDC purchased and subsequently contaminated all of their assays. And that delayed the launch of those assays to the broader community. That was done by IDT, the manufacturer of those primers and probes, but the actual kitting of that product was done elsewhere at the CDC. And during that kitting process, they contaminated all of their kits. So we are hearing a number of stories like this from a number of our customers that had initially gone to different manufacturers and purchased oligos. And turns out that not everybody has the capability of being able to produce these compounds without what's called template contamination. And IDT has spent millions and millions of dollars building facilities that eliminate the possibility of template contamination. And so we're now sort of under the gun a bit, I would say, being one of, if not the only manufacturer that can do this. And we're just being kind of overrun at the moment with people asking for their own assays. So it's a challenging time, and I think that there's been a number of disconnects. Obviously, a lot of people pointing to the government and slow response. I think, you know, that's partly true. I don't think that this country was at all prepared in any way, shape, or form along a number of aspects. You know, it's a multifaceted problem that we're experiencing. What I am seeing, you know, today is that the rate limiting steps for testing revolve a lot around who should get tested. So physician decision on who should get tested. The number of kits that we're manufacturing is in the millions of reactions or patient, you know, capable kits on a daily basis. We're providing, you know, large manufacturers like LabCorp, obviously the CDC, Biorad, organizations of very high penetration in the market for testing with these kits. So they're out there and they are in plenty availability, but there are other factors, if you read around the news, in the whole process, right? So finding some physician to actually allow you to get tested, then finding a cotton swab, literally, or, you know, what goes up your nose or into the pharynx, and they can swab around and get the sample. Those are in short supply. And then there's a material that you need out of the cell, RNA. These are RNA viruses, and you need to extract the RNA from the cell and then put that RNA into a reaction that transcribes it into DNA. And that's a reverse transcriptase compound that allows you to then go into a qPCR assay, which is what we provide at the very end of that sort of process. So we had a leg up. We had plenty of supply, but we're at the back end of the process, and the bottlenecks were up front. So that's, yeah.
So it sounds like we started out, we had some quality control problems. I think that was highlighted in the news. We've now run into some supply chain problems, and I'm not sure if folks know about the the idea of cotton swabs and RNA extraction kits, that we've got some components of the puzzle, but not all of them. So if I'm a small business owner, and I speak from this lens of small business because obviously I may not have the cash reserves, I may not have the lines of credit that I need to make this through. What should be my expectation about how we as a nation are going to work through this on a time frame, and how I should think about my small business and the decisions I've got to make in the coming weeks and months?
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly not an epidemiologist, or a virologist, so I have a bit of limited knowledge there. But what I think, from what I read and talking with virologists that I work with and others, the fear is that we release everyone to go back to work too soon, right? So flatten the curve, so to speak. Everybody talks about flattening the curve, and then everybody starts going back to work, and we start this whole cycle over again and start flooding the hospitals. So, and there's a lot of political discussion around that. I'm hearing about protests about, going back to work and things like that. But, these are real things. I think if you look at the population that's being tested currently, and there's a website that monitors all the tests coming in state by state, we're at about 1% fatality rate of those people tested. So, how many are out there that have it that aren't tested? We honestly don't know, but there's huge indication that people are carriers and that they have no symptoms. You could be standing next to somebody who has it, is completely asymptomatic, gives it to you, and you die. And so there are three components to surveillance of this that I think needs evaluation. The first is, does someone have it or do they not on a population level? Second is, how do people individually react, their immunology aspect? How are they reacting to the coronavirus and why? And then lastly, ongoing surveillance of the virus itself and how it's mutating. So those are three components that need to be evaluated, and we just don't have the capacity right now to do that level of testing and understanding. So, oops, did I lose you? My video went out.
No, you're just frozen here, but
Oh,
we've got your audio, and as good at-home workers, we will press ahead.
All right.
So it sounds like, as we're seeing kind of John, we've got your audio there, I think still. Are you still with us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. So
Terrific.
It'll come back. Sorry about that.
Well, good. No, it's all good. So, so what I'm hearing then is we are starting to make gains. We've got a good quality basis now for the basic components of testing. The supply chain has to catch up. And it sounds like in weeks ahead, with millions of tests being issued, with kind of cotton swabs and RNA extraction kits catching up, that we should at least have more data and information coming at us than we did, say, in the last 2 months. Is that a fair statement as far as what you're seeing on your side of the industry?
Yeah, I think, there's there is going to be more data. Quite a bit more is going to start coming out. And there are a number of organizations that we're working with right now that are taking a completely different approach to the problem. You can read in the news about Color Genomics, Attila Biosciences, Guardant Health. Some of these companies, the Broad, they're trying to eliminate the bottlenecks, right? So get rid of the RNA extraction completely from the picture. So I think in time, the testing will come online, and it's just a matter of, how soon they can get stuff made from us, and how soon they can get their processes, through the FDA for emergency use, which is another, issue, although they've been pretty lenient these days about doing that. So, and you're hearing about other, potential kits like point of care or in-home, right? And so I would expect that, over time here in the coming months, those things should start becoming more mass available. I actually got an email from a company in Portland that offered up an in-home test kit already to purchase now. It's on back order, but I can get in line right now. So so there's a lot of that stuff going on out there. What I think from a small business perspective that kind of scares me a little bit is that let's say, Oregon, as an example, says, okay, everybody, May 15th or May 30th, whatever, you're all cleared. You can start going back to work. As an individual, me personally, my wife she has a chronic illness. She has a autoimmune disorder. And I'm a sales guy, right? So if I start going out and visiting with a bunch of clients, and I bring COVID home, she could die. So my ability or desire to go out and work and do my job, and travel, it ain't happening. And so I think from a small business perspective, that's a little bit frightening to me. I think that's frightening from a large business perspective as well. And I think, if you talk to some of the airline people, they're really freaking out because this isn't going to be, a light switch where May 30th we say, okay, go back to work, and everybody rushes back. I think there's going to be some resistance by quite a bit of the population. So that's, from a small business concern perspective, that would be one of my biggest.
Right. I mean, it sounds like from everything I'm hearing, and you're right, just even anecdotally talking to people about even if the light switch went on and they're like, great, you can go anywhere you want, people are going to be nervous. People aren't going to want to be shoulder to shoulder at the bar anymore. It's just like life is just going to look different, it seems like, for a really long time, from just
and
PTSD
it boils
and
down
nothing else
to
from all this.
Yeah, we just don't know, right? Who is going to be hit? They, obviously if you have some underlying health conditions, you're at higher risk, but which underlying health conditions, right? And, one of the, I guess, most positive things that I've heard in the news, and we'll see how this all transpires, but Gilead has a drug out that's an antiviral. And there's a registry going on in Chicago right now. I think it was 129 patients were treated with this antiviral that's not even indicated, for this purpose, and all of them recovered, and they were pretty bad off. So, there's some hope out there. That's a therapeutic option, it's not a vaccine, but that would lessen the impact, if you do get it, right? Even if you're really, really sick or you have underlying conditions. So there's some hope out there, but you know how long it takes for those things to get put into the market and approved and whatnot. So, we're kind of in for a long haul.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it does feel like the head of steam on the American innovation engine is kind of charging ahead. So we'll stand by and probably would love to check in with you here in a few weeks, as it feels like new data, new stories coming out every week there, John, and you're on the front lines of it. So first of all, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
I know you got 300 unread emails in your inbox today, and we appreciate it. And Kristen, for those who want to find out more about Breakaway, where do they go?
So you can visit our website, www.breakawayba.com, and also find us on social media on LinkedIn and Facebook. And if you want to shoot us an email, I'd love to hear from you. It's just info@breakawayba.com. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Thanks, John.
James. And thank you so much, John. I really appreciate your time. So good luck getting through
Absolutely.
this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck. Take care.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.